Welcome to my channel, The Stoic Way. If you have ever watched your phone in the dark, heart tight, wondering why the more you go quiet, the more she seems pulled toward you, this is the truth most men are never told. Before I go any deeper, take 1 second to like this video and subscribe, because what you're about to hear can change the way you move forever. Silence is not a trick, it is a mirror. When you remove constant noise, explanations, and chasing, you force the other person to confront their own emotional momentum. The human nervous system is wired to resolve unfinished emotional loops. Every unanswered question creates tension, and tension seeks release. When you disappear into stillness, her mind does not go calm. It becomes loud with you, not because you manipulated her, but because you stopped carrying the emotional weight for both of you. Most men think attraction is built through constant presence, constant reassurance, constant effort. What they were never taught is that desire is born in space. Space allows imagination. Space allows uncertainty. Space allows the subconscious to work. When you are always available, always explaining, always proving, you remove the mystery that gives emotional energy its charge. Your silence does the opposite. It restores polarity. It shifts the dynamic from pursuit to curiosity. From a psychological perspective, silence activates what we call the completion reflex. The brain hates open endings. When communication suddenly slows without conflict or collapse, the mind searches for meaning. She replays conversations. She reinterprets tone. She wonders what changed. And in that search, emotional investment deepens, not because she is weak, because she is human. Here is the part most men misuse. Silence only creates attraction when it is rooted in self-respect, not punishment. If your quiet comes from strength, boundaries, and clarity, it feels magnetic. If it comes from resentment, insecurity, or games, it feels cold and unsafe. Women do not chase emptiness. They chase emotional gravity. And gravity comes from a man who is centered, not reactive. When you stop over-explaining, you send a direct signal to the nervous system. I am grounded. I am not desperate for validation. I am not afraid of distance. That signal is rare, and rarity is psychologically powerful. It triggers reflection instead of dismissal, pursuit instead of escape. This is the silent shift that rewires relational energy inside your life. Your silence does not work because it is quiet. It works because it disrupts a pattern her nervous system had already memorized. Every relationship runs on emotional rhythms. Who texts first? Who reassures? Who overthinks? Who chases when distance appears? The moment you step out of that rhythm without chaos, you create a psychological interruption, and the brain always pays attention to interruption. When you used to answer instantly and now you pause, she does not feel absence first. She feels contrast. Contrast is what generates meaning. The mind measures value by what changes, not by what stays familiar. In that contrast, a question forms that is more powerful than words. What shifted inside him? That question is the seed of pursuit. A woman's attraction is not driven primarily by what you say. It is driven by how she feels in your emotional presence. When you go silent in a regulated, composed way, you remove emotional predictability and unpredictability. When it is calm rather than chaotic, activates curiosity instead of fear. Curiosity pulls attention. Attention pulls attachment. This is why dramatic arguments don't create real chasing. They flood the system with threat. The brain switches into protection, not longing. But quiet withdrawal, without hostility, keeps safety intact while reintroducing mystery. That combination is neurologically potent. Safety allows attachment to remain. Mystery makes it intensify. Here is what most men misunderstand. Your silence is not about controlling her behavior. It is about regulating your own. It is about training yourself not to react from panic, not to over-earn affection, not to flood the connection with words every time uncertainty rises. When you hold that line, you become emotionally scarce. Scarcity, when it is natural, increases perceived value without force. She begins to notice the space where your validation used to sit, not as punishment, but as contrast. And in that noticing, her investment reallocates. She checks her phone more. She replays moments in her mind. Her resistance softens without her fully understanding why. The pursuit is never loud. It is quiet, subtle, and internal long before it shows itself externally. This is why silence must always be anchored in inner stability. Without stability, silence feels empty. With it, silence feels gravitational, and gravity always pulls. It draws her attention, her memories, and her unanswered questions back toward the center you hold. When you stop proving and start becoming still, here's the truth most men overlook. They sabotage their own silence without realizing it. They withdraw, then instantly begin overthinking. They check their phone, rewrite messages, or send a weak, casual, "hey," because panic whispers, "she's slipping away." That is the precise moment silence loses its power. Emotional scarcity only attracts when it is calm, not anxious. Confidence paired with absence is magnetic. Anxiety paired with absence is desperate. One invites pursuit, the other invites dismissal. Here is the hidden truth about female psychology few talk about. Attraction is built on emotional tension, not logic. Women do not pursue because of reasoning. They pursue because the subconscious detects rarity and value. That value can be shown without words, without chasing, and without explanation. Stepping back and existing as a steady, unreactive presence quietly activates her desire to reconnect. Your silence becomes a space she feels compelled to fill emotionally. Many men mistake this for playing games. That misunderstanding destroys the effect. True power in silence comes from being deeply rooted in your own life. It's not a game. It's a reflection of self-worth. When you live fully in your own world, your absence is not about punishment, it's about alignment. She senses that you have priorities beyond her validation, and her mind automatically recalibrates to match your level of emotional gravity. Desire follows respect. Let me make it clear, this is not manipulation, it's biology. When you stop over-communicating, your nervous system sends signals of calm control. Her nervous system responds with curiosity and subtle longing. The emotional loops you created by your previous over-availability now reverse. Every unanswered text, every unfilled expectation, and every moment you honor your boundaries makes her subconscious ask, "What's changed? Why isn't he reacting like before?" That is the moment pursuit is born. Another critical element most men overlook is timing. Silence must be consistent and measured. Random reactive silence without inner stability signals instability, not power. The brain notices patterns first, then interprets meaning. A pattern of calm absence signals control and maturity. A pattern of inconsistent withdrawal signals chaos and insecurity. The difference is subtle, but the effect is profound. Finally, understand this. The chase you want is not about her feeling deprived, it's about her filling the emotional space you consciously create. The energy of curiosity, wonder, and reflection emerges because you chose to step out of the reactive loop. This is the psychology that rewires attraction. The moment you stop being a mirror for her emotions and become the anchor for your own, the magnetic pull begins. Now, let's address a subtle trap that keeps most men stuck: the need for explanation. Men often feel compelled to justify their silence, to give reasons, or to fill gaps with words. "I've been busy. I just needed space. I'm not ignoring you." Every explanation dissolves the tension you worked so hard to create. Her mind is no longer wondering, it is reassured. Curiosity dies, pursuit fades, silence is only magnetic when it carries weight, and weight is created by absence, not justification. Understand this. Human brains crave mystery. When you remove yourself from constant explanation, her subconscious begins to craft narratives to fill the void. These narratives are often more favorable than anything you could say. She imagines the man you are rather than the man you're explaining. An imagination fueled by desire is far stronger than facts. It is why your quiet becomes a psychological lever pulling her closer without a single push. Emotional scarcity is not a punishment. It is a reflection of priority. When you occupy your own space, she perceives value through contrast. Your life becomes the reference point. Your calm, unwavering presence, even from a distance, communicates that your world is rich and abundant. In psychology, we call this emotional self-containment. It is magnetic because it triggers a deep subconscious drive. She wants to be part of the life that already exists independently of her. Let's talk about internal alignment. Silence works only when it is anchored in your own emotional clarity. If your quiet comes from reaction, resentment, or insecurity, it pushes away instead of drawing in. Your nervous system must remain calm, your intentions steady, and your boundaries firm. This is not merely about a woman noticing absence. It is about her sensing a man who cannot be shaken by uncertainty. That perception alone activates attraction on a level words can never reach. Here is the ultimate paradox. When you stop seeking her approval, she begins seeking yours. When you step out of the reactive cycle of pursuit, she unconsciously steps back into it. She revisits shared moments, wonders about your life, and starts rebuilding desire within herself. You never force connection. You simply became scarce in a way that opened psychological space for emotional investment. The pull you feel afterward is not a trick. It is the natural outcome of human wiring. Every man who struggles with attraction must grasp this. Stillness is strength, absence is energy, and mystery is leverage. Once you understand how your quiet reshapes her mind, you see the truth that most men never learn. Pursuing less often results in her pursuing more. Here's a truth most men never fully grasp. Your silence is amplified by your life's intensity. The more your world is full, purposeful, and unapologetically yours, the more magnetic your quiet becomes. If you sit idle while waiting for her attention, your absence will feel empty. But if you are building, creating, mastering yourself, every moment she doesn't have you present makes her curiosity deepen. Your silence is only potent when your life radiates energy she can't control. Another critical factor is emotional consistency. The human brain is hypersensitive to patterns. If you alternate between intense presence and reactive absence, your nervous system sends mixed signals. She feels instability, not attraction. Consistent, grounded quiet. Communicates control, maturity, and emotional scarcity. 3 psychological triggers that ignite desire. She doesn't chase a man who is inconsistent. She chases a man who is reliably unshakable. That reliability and absence becomes a subtle force she can't resist. Let's dive deeper. Your silence is a mirror reflecting her own desire. When you step back without anxiety, she has no choice but to confront her feelings. She begins replaying your interactions, analyzing your behavior, and questioning why you are not pursuing her. This internal reflection heightens emotional engagement. Every unanswered text, every calm pause becomes a signal that you are not just a participant in her story. You are an independent force in your own life, and that contrast triggers the pursuit instinct. Here's what most men get wrong. They believe chasing is about attention. It isn't. Chasing is about emotional investment. When you go silent with clarity, it is not absence. It is controlled scarcity. Scarcity that stems from grounded self-possession activates a woman's subconscious need to restore equilibrium. She begins to invest emotionally to balance the energy you are holding long before any words are exchanged. Attraction at its core is less about communication and more about tension. Your quiet generates it effortlessly. Finally, remember this: silence is not passive, it is a dynamic force. Its power is multiplied by intention, self respect, and alignment with your own life. When used correctly, it rewires relational energy, creating a gravitational pull you can almost feel. You stop chasing and she starts moving. You stop proving and she starts reflecting. You stop reacting and she starts wondering. This is not a tactic. It is a psychology. And when you understand it, you begin to see relationships through a lens that most men never even know exists. Understand this. Human desire is fueled by mystery and emotional contrast. Silence works because it triggers a cognitive dissonance in her mind. She notices your absence and begins to question why she feels compelled to reach for you. That tension is not created by manipulation. It is created by your refusal to overextend yourself emotionally. You stop giving the answer she doesn't need and start demonstrating that your energy is finite, valuable, and anchored in your own life. That is a signal she cannot ignore. When you maintain calm, composed silence, she begins to fill the space with her own interpretations. She recalls your moments together and wonders if she could have handled things differently. She replays your words, your expressions, the energy you brought into her life, and she starts chasing the emotional connection she once had. Every pause, every moment you choose to step back without drama subtly escalates her internal desire. This is attraction at the subconscious level, bypassing logic entirely and triggering instinctive pursuit. Most men fail because they confuse absence with withdrawal. Withdrawal without grounding creates frustration. Absence with intention creates longing. When you are emotionally centered, quiet becomes a tool of magnetic influence rather than an act of avoidance. The power of your silence is in your presence. Your life continues unabated, full of purpose, boundaries, and clarity. She sees this stability, and without realizing it, she begins to seek alignment with it. That is why the most elusive men often hold the strongest pull. They are unavailable in the right way. Let's address one final misconception. You are not testing her or playing games. Your quiet is not a strategy to manipulate feelings. It is a reflection of your own self-possession. The chase is not born from coercion. It is born from your own emotional gravity. When you stop chasing validation and start creating value through calm, confident silence, the natural law of relational psychology takes over. She will pursue not because you forced it, but because your absence clarified your worth. Remember, silence is a lens through which desire magnifies. It is a signal of autonomy, strength, and certainty. Every man who struggles with attraction must learn this. You do not increase desire by saying more. You increase it by saying less and living more fully in yourself. Step back, remain grounded, and watch how the pull of your quiet transforms the dynamics you once thought you had to force. In this space, you are no longer chasing. She is, and that is the deepest, most potent truth of attraction. Thanks for watching. If you found like this video, please press the bell icon and subscribe to my channel, The Stoic Way. Thank you.